As a new Shopify clothing brand, your first year is crucial for establishing a strong foundation and setting the stage for long-term success. And that's really what I want to tackle here today with you. I think a lot of you tend to get too stressed out, right, with everything that has to do with conversion on your store. But what I want to give you today are actionables in a month-by-month basis on what I would do. I also want to give you some benchmarks, some visitor numbers, etc. along the way. Now, in the past year, we've helped over 250 clothing brands boost their success by adding more than 10 million in extra revenue. We achieved this through top-notch website optimization, smart ad strategies, and powerful email marketing. If you're new here, I'm Christian Piñon. My business partner is Aaron Pearson, and we release 2 new videos every single week. Aaron dives deep into marketing strategies while I focus on Shopify and mastering your conversion rates. So month 1 and 2, this is really to establish your baseline, right? Before we can actually improve and get better and jump through all the hoops and add apps, you need to know where you stand. So in these first 2 months, I really want you to focus on setting up your Google Analytics, making sure that you're familiar with Shopify's built-in analytics, tracking key metrics, right? Like visitors, conversion rate, average order value, bounce rate from your website, and understanding your customer's journey and identifying potential friction points. Beyond the Google Analytics, I also want you to look into Microsoft Clarity. This will give you information on user behavior. You'll see recordings, you'll see heat maps, and you'll gain the knowledge that you need in order to make better decisions in the future. So this is really month 1, right? Month 2, I also want you to start looking at some apps, right? Something that I highly recommend. This is like one of those apps that everyone should have on their store from the get-go, and that is some kind of review app. Our go-to is really Judge Me. You can get it for free. You can leave it for free for a very long time. And at least you have the basics, right? Once you start getting people in and buying your product, you'll start at least getting some reviews, right? And that's something that you have to do from the get-go. So again, action items. Make sure that you implement your tracking codes correctly with Google Analytics. Make sure that you understand your Shopify Analytics tab. And then make sure you also install Microsoft Clarity in order to get better data in the back end. And then on top of that, you also want to install Judge Me or some kind of review app, right? Something that will automatically try to capture reviews for you based on what people are purchasing. And then part of these first 2 months, I also want you to just create a dashboard, create something simple on a spreadsheet where you're actually keeping track of some of these key metrics. Now, if you're interested in just learning a little bit more about what key metrics are going to be the ones that you definitely need to pay attention to, then you want to check out this video where we talk over the Shopify Analytics and what are some of the main ones that you want to keep track. But I think a lot of people tend to keep track of the analytics, but they don't actually, take that data and put it somewhere else. And that's where I think it's going to be very powerful to have some form of spreadsheet where you're keeping track of that data on a month-by-month basis and keeping track of some of the changes that you're making throughout the months. Now, for the first 2 months, let's talk about benchmark standards, right? We definitely need to aim for at least 1,000 visitors per month. I would say by the end of month 2, you really want to hit hard on achieving those 1,000 monthly visitors. And that's why, really for these first 2 months, there's really not much that I want you to do on your website right now. All I want you to do is set up the right analytics tools so you have a good listening ear while you're driving traffic into your store. Now, the driving traffic portion, that's the hard part, right? That's gonna be ads, that's gonna be organic content, that's gonna be SEO. So there's a lot of different avenues, influencers, that's gonna be a lot of different avenues to drive traffic to your store. And that's where I really want you to spend majority of your time for those first 2 months is driving traffic, driving good traffic to your store. And just to give you another benchmark, that initial conversion rate for brand new stores who are just starting out on the first 1 to 2 months, it's really going to be 0 to 1%, right? There's not going to be much people converting on your store. You're a brand new business. You got to understand, not a lot of people trust you just yet. And these are things that we're going to fix in the coming year. But right now, for these first 2 months, it's about driving traffic to your store and knowing the analytics and the data that you need to be observing and measure. Now, obviously with all this, we've established that you already have a website, right? This is really for the year one, sort of like after you launch, right? So I definitely want to clear that out. What the assumptions that we have right now is that you potentially have watched some of our videos and you have implemented some of these best practices already within your store. You have already launched, you have products, you have customer support, you have all these sort of basics in place for your store. And now it's a time for take this year to improve your conversion rate overall. This is not something that you flip a switch and magic happens, right? It takes time, it takes effort to get this going. Let's move on to month 3 and month 4. These 2 months, what I really want you to go over and hit hard are going to be your product pages. So really optimize your product pages. Obviously, you're going to get a lot of data, right, from Google Analytics. You're going to get a lot of data from Microsoft Clarity, and your product pages is really where the magic happens, right? So focusing on making them as compelling, as user-friendly as possible, having all the information the customer may need is going to be your next action. And the first place that I want you to start with your product pages is going to be your photography. So if you have maybe for the first 2 months you have taken photography from maybe your vendors, maybe you don't have a lot of the products in hand, the first 2 months you probably want to start getting some of that inventory on hand so that you can start getting some high quality photography. That's really going to be your main action item for these 2 months. Is going to be improving the photography on your website. You want to make sure that you have images that they can zoom in, multiple angles, consistent backgrounds, potentially consistent models, right? Something that looks a little bit better overall, and it's going to paint a picture about how you're presenting your brand to the world. So photography, high priority for month 3 and month 4. Now, beyond the photography, right? The photography is really, it can make or break product page overall. But besides that, we also need to get into the written portion of it, right? So writing a detailed, benefit-focused product descriptions is going to be the next best thing you can do, right? You have the imagery, you have the visuals, and then you want to have the details, right? The description, the written portion of your product description. If you are interested in our 4-part PDF on how to write better product descriptions, just comment down below product and we'll send that over to you. Now, beyond this is making sure that you're implementing size guides, fit recommendations, making sure that you have shipping information on your product page, returns information on the product page, making sure that you have your customer reviews, testimonials section right there within the product page. If you have already installed that app within the first 2 months, you may want to revisit and see what other settings and what other things you need to add to your product page. Potentially, maybe you forgot to add the star rating, right? Somewhere near the title of the product. And then even if you have the dedicated, let's say you install Judge Me, you have your reviews and then you have your star rating at the top, then you have your reviews at the bottom. But let's say for a majority of your products you don't have reviews, I would encourage you during these 2 months, if you have gathered any reviews, to at least highlight some of those reviews that you've gotten on the product page. So those reviews are more highlighted reviews, but there may not be about that particular product, but you're still trying to showcase and highlight some form of social proof right there within that product page. Now, if in the first 2 months you hit that 1,000 mark on the monthly visitors, then I want you to keep pushing that, right? Don't just stay complacent with the 1,000 visitors a month. You definitely want to be increasing that, right? Now we need to be looking really at the 15 to 2,000 visitors, potentially even hitting that 3,000 visitor mark by end of month 4. And again, target rate conversion, what we really want to get into is we want to try to get out of those 1%. We want to try to increase more than that 1% conversion rate. And I know you can do it. And it really is going to take a lot of effort to work through a lot of it's going to be a lot of the visuals, right? And that's what these month 3, month 4 is going to be updating the visuals overall on your store, and then really laser focus on your product pages overall. Now, month 5 and 6, this is where we're really looking at the checkout and beyond, right? We're looking at having just a very smooth, frictionless checkout process that's going to be really critical for conversions, right? First of all, these are some things that you definitely want to make sure that you pay attention to towards the beginning, right? Month 1, month 2. Really, these 2 months, what I want you to do is really laser focus again on that checkout and beyond, right? Just making sure that you're offering multiple payment options, right? This is at this point where you're starting to get some data on whether people are checking out or not checking out, right? And one of the best things you can do is offer something like Klarna, offer something like Afterpay, right? Give your customers different payment options and potential other digital wallets out there, right? All around the world, there's a bunch of different options. And you just want to make sure that if you've enabled just sort of the simple options, that you go a step above, right? Let's now offer PayPal. Let's make sure that we're offering Apple Pay. Let's make sure that we're offering these installment payments, potentially having 1 or 2 of those most popular installment payment options enabled within your store. And it's not just part of enabling, right? It's also important to mention that throughout your website. Mention it in your homepage, mention it in your product page, mention it in your cart page. Now, part of the checkout, and I think one of the biggest improvements that you can do as part of your checkout process is making sure that your product page has a simple add to cart button. From that add to cart button, it goes into a cart drawer. This is where you'll see the drawer come up from the side. And then from there, just again, a simple single button to go to checkout. That process right there is something that a lot of people tend to miss, or they tend to, and not really by their fault, the theme just automatically adds these additional buttons that just don't make sense. And it could split off the customer into different directions and potentially just either get them lost or not interested in fully checking out. So the more streamlined and straight line that you can have that checkout process, the better it's going to be. I see a lot of times where these cart drawers, for example, they'll go from adding to cart, you see the cart drawer, and then they give them options. View the cart. Why? I have the cart just right in front of me. And then go back shopping. Why? If I already have the products in here, I just want to go to the checkout. And then third, they have the checkout button, right? So they have 3 different action items right there within that cart drawer, making it just a little bit, right? We're talking about milliseconds, right, of thinking for the customer to go to that next step. And sometimes it's not even clear, right, which of the 3 buttons is the one that they need to click to go to the next step. So that's what I'm saying. Let's get rid of all these junk buttons and let's go straight from cart to checkout. Make it simple. Part of these 2 months is also trying to increase the trust, right? And what better way to do that than doing some form of trust badges, right? You want to reassure customers about how you handle your business, about how you handle returns, about who you are, how long have you been in business. If you at this point have, 20 plus reviews, which hopefully you do, highlight that, right? 20 plus happy customers. Like, you have to start somewhere, right? It's not always good to try to make yourself look bigger than you really are. It's good. Customers, they like that authenticity, that honesty when it comes to things like that. And lastly, part of this is just please make sure that you have your abandoned cart recovery emails in place. And let's say maybe you took care of this in month 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, and now you're at this point now really looking at your abandoned cart recovery emails. You actually have some data in place where you're potentially adding more emails to that step. You're potentially adding SMS to this step. And this is really what I want you to look at what you have. If it's working, how can we make it 1% better? Right? Can we add an additional email? Can we make this email look better, read better? These are all things that I want you to look at during these months. Because we're focusing on the checkout, on the cart process, some kind of metric that I want you to look into is reducing that cart abandonment rate by at least 10 to 15%. That's going to be really your goal for these 2 months. Month 7 and 8. This is really where we get into more personalization, maybe some upselling, maybe some cross-selling. And again, this is all based off of data that you've been collecting throughout these first 6 months. This will give you a significant boost really in conversions and your average order value. And that's really all we're interested in for 7 and 8. It's going to be setting up good product recommendation engines based on, again, history, data, past purchases, right? Making sure that if you are using, for example, the recommended products section that comes standard with every theme, if you have better data than what Shopify is now displaying, just making sure that you use that search and discovery app and making sure that you're changing some of those products based on the data that you're seeing. So if I have these very popular jeans and I've noticed that a lot of people are purchasing these jeans with maybe my glasses and my shirt, then having that section be added, right, to my jean product page is going to be absolutely important. Obviously, implementing smart upselling and cross-selling features, something like Sell Easy, where you can very easily set up a lot of different upsells and cross-sells all throughout your website, is something that I want you to focus on. One Click Upsell is another great app that allows you to do a lot of different things with upselling your products. And then obviously we're talking about personalization. So the personalization on the website, I think right now there may be some apps out there that can totally transform your website depending on who's visiting, but I don't think we're there yet. But I think the next best thing that you can do in terms of personalizing the experience on your store is really going to be a chat option where it's almost a very seamless experience, right, for the customer, because they can ask deep questions about the products, about the brand overall, and you don't have to be involved with that. Let me explain. So if you install something like Joofy uses ChatGPT in order to learn everything about your store, about your product data, about answers that you personally have given Joofy, right? So you can train this AI model to answer questions and recommend products based on what the customer exactly wants. And this is something that is really going to elevate your store from the rest, right? Majority of stores out there, they may have a live chat option and they may be able to speak to maybe the business owner, for example, but that business owner is not going to be able to scale that process of people asking questions. And that's where Joofy really shines, is the fact that you're duplicating yourself, right? You're duplicating yourself and how you would sell products to your customers right there from your store, which is awesome. The last thing that I want you to do during these months is making sure that you have exit intent pop-ups with some offer. So you may already have a pop-up that shows up right when someone loads their website. This is something that it should be standard from every store. But now is really the time to potentially look at some of your most popular pages. You have the data on which ones are going to be your most popular pages all throughout your website. Sure, it's probably going to be the homepage. Sure, it's probably going to be some kind of product page. But beyond that, do you have some blog posts maybe in the back end? And these blog posts are driving maybe a lot of traffic into your store. Have a dedicated exit intent pop-up within that blog post. Have a dedicated exit intent pop-up for maybe your most popular product, right? These are things that I want you to look into the data and see, again, how can we make this 1% better? How can we make sure that if someone doesn't purchase these jeans right now, how can we get their information so that we can retarget them later? And very easily you can do that with exit intent pop-ups. Now, because we're doing a lot of things with upsells and cross-selling during these months, what I really want you to focus on is that average order value. Can we increase our average order value by 15-20% for these 2 months? Month 9 and 10, we're almost getting there to our year. And this is really where I want you to dive a little deeper into mobile. Why mobile? Well, that's because more than half of e-commerce traffic is coming from mobile devices. Sure, I've seen some outliers out there, some brands that for whatever reason they have 90% of their traffic coming from desktop. If that's you, then maybe we can talk about some other things that you can do during these months. But majority of you're gonna have a lot of traffic coming in from mobile, and you have to make sure that the mobile experience is good to go. So at this point, if you're using maybe the Dawn theme and you've noticed that the Dawn theme doesn't really give you a whole lot of optimization for mobile, then yeah, I may actually say this out loud, but you may need to get another theme, right? I love the Dawn theme and I think you can be very successful with the Dawn theme, but to some extent it could be very limiting. It could be very minimalistic type theme where it doesn't allow you to fully express how you should display your brand in your store on a mobile device. So that's where potentially jumping into something like Stiletto or maybe Impulse, where it gives you a little bit more granular control over the mobile side of the website, is going to be very important. Now, if you don't want to go and jump ship to another theme at this stage of your business, right? We're not even finishing the year with the theme. That's perfectly fine. Then I would maybe recommend something like Section Store, where it allows you to, for a very minimal cost, I think $9 to $16 one-time fee, where you can add different sections to your homepage, add different sections to your product page, and you pay based on what section you need. Let's say you have your hero banner on your homepage and you've noticed that the text is really on top of the image and you can't really read it really well, and then you need something that maybe will push the text right below it and we'll see a mobile version of the image. That's a section that you may have to buy from Section Store in order to make your website better optimized for mobile. Another thing that I want you to do during these months is making sure that you're looking at any sort of feature within your theme. And this is something where sometimes you just have to go and look at the settings and click on every single tab and read every single feature and all the options that the theme gives you. Because sometimes it can do things like sticky add to cart buttons, for example, or maybe if you have a very long scroll type of page, that button that just kind of takes you back all the way back to the top. Some themes also have implemented full mobile navigations towards the bottom. Agile is actually one of them that we've been working through recently, where they have these buttons towards the bottom. It looks like an app almost. So it transforms your website completely. The next thing is just making sure that you're constantly, and this is not really just for this month, but you should be looking at your website from different devices. So if you're only looking at your website from desktop, just making sure that you pull out your phone. Check your website on mobile. Check your website on different mobile devices. Check your website on different mobile browsers, right? Safari, Chrome. These are all going to be things that are going to be important, especially as you're adding new apps along the way. Now, during these months, I really want you to focus more on the conversion rate. Your conversion rate by this time, right? If you've been working through all the things and doing all the things that you need to be doing and increasing the traffic to your store, running ads, your conversion rate should be about that 3 to 4%. That's really the sweet spot for any clothing e-commerce business out there, and that's where we really want to try to sustain and try to increase little by little. Obviously, you're probably not gonna get to like a crazy 6, 7, or 8% right from the get-go from this first year, but this first year we should end about that 3 to 4%. So that's something that I want you to look into, and you may actually even just look into just mobile conversion rate, right? And try to see if just the mobile conversion rate you can increase by making some of these changes during these months. Now, finally, we made it to month 11 and 12, and this is really where you need to absolutely push for social proof and user-generated content. You want to build trust, you need to build authenticity, and you can do this very easily by showcasing your customers and their experiences with your brand. So again, this is where you may actually start paying for Judge Me, for that $15 a month. That's how it is right now, at least. That $15 a month with Judge Me. So you can maybe bump up your review system, right? Maybe add some incentives for leaving feedback, maybe encourage people to take pictures or videos within their reviews, potentially add more emails to the flow that you already should be sending automatically that we talked about in month 1 and 2. So this is really about just beefing everything up. You're getting the traffic, you're getting the conversion. Now let's make sure that those people are making an impact for the future of your business. This is also a good time to install that Shopify collabs. Look through influencer partnerships that could potentially help you and accelerate, I would say, some of this social proof, right? Getting or paying for some of these users to generate content, to take pictures, real life pictures with your products, is going to, again, notch you up into that next level in terms of social proof. You really want to, for me to go to your website and see like all these people, all these happy customers, right? Like there's no better social proof than seeing your customers wearing your items and talk about positively, right, about your items. So anytime that you can potentially leverage your social media following into doing that via contests or just hiring them or just incentivizing them with discounts, those are all things that you can do to increase some of that within your website. And lastly, part of the social proof is also still trying to build more trust building elements on your site, right? If you can do something like a money back guarantee, if you can improve upon your returns, maybe you had a 15-day return, maybe you can increase it to a 30-day return. Again, always be thinking during this first year on like, what's that 1% that I can do better for this month? And like I said earlier, target conversion for this first year is really gonna be that 3 to 4% sweet spot for a clothing brand. And these are all the things, and this is how I would break it down. I know a lot of you have different jobs, or this is more of a side hustle right now, and that's why I wanted to break it down into a 12-month plan for you to get to that 3 or 4%, right? These are all things that they take time, right? But if you are like maybe on a fast track, right? And you were like, no, I think I wanna get this done all within a month, that's technically possible, right? If you have all the time in the world, you can definitely implement all this within a month. Obviously, you're not gonna have the data to back it up, but it's still gonna be something that you could potentially do. And for both of you who are on the fast track, and maybe you've finished this video and you're on finishing month 11 or 12 and you're thinking, what is next? Then for you, I have this next video right here.